Actually, look at the healing meters. I guess I'm #1 healer. This is nice.
Okay, so Venruki seemed to be a bit in a state of denial there as to who top healing there, but I'm just kind of joking because what's happening there is something that can help you top healing in the segment of a BG, but obviously you're not going to top healing throughout an entire BG. And let me explain, what I was doing here. The main healing is coming from Rune of Sanguination. So for defense, for the initial team fight, and when I get low health, I'm running 2 one-handers. One one-hander, I have Rune of Sanguination. On the other half, Crusader. So having Rune of Sanguination for the initial team fight is very good because it allows me to kind of push into that team fight more, be a bit more aggressive, because I know I have that safety of the Rune of Sanguination proccing when I get low health, and it is an absolutely massive heal. So you have to understand that anything that does a percentage of health in the War Within right now, either a percentage of health as damage or a percentage of health as healing, has absolutely extreme value. Okay, because health pools are so large and overall damage is low relative to those health pools.
I'm going to switch to my two-hand now. More damage.
So in a BG, I have the one-handers up when I want to be more aggressive into a team fight, like the initial team fight, or when my health gets low, I can switch to the one-handers. But once that proc is consumed, I switch to the two-hander, which just has Fallen Crusader on it, to be more offensive and do more damage. This is later in that same BG, and you can see I've switched back to one-handers because the Rune of Sanguination proc that keeps it from proccing again, I should say, the debuff that keeps it from proccing again, only has a few seconds left on it. So I switched back to the one-hander so I can be a little bit more aggressive, going into the team fights.
Oh, Lord Almighty.
And there you see the Rune of Sanguination proc saves me from these mages that get on me and almost kill me. Switching back to the 2v2 skirmish, in the lobby, I'm pretty sure that this druid was making fun of me for being a Draenei, but let me explain why I was a Draenei.
He's making fun of my race, Drill.
Now, Gifted Inaru is on a 3-minute cooldown, which kind of sucks. However, as I mentioned earlier, anything that does a percentage of health, either as damage or healing, has very high value in the War Within right now. Now here you can see that myself and the enemy DK, we have both used Death Pact. Now the problem with Death Pact is that it puts this absorb shield on you that prevents healing. Alright, see, we both have it. Now what I can do though, and what I do, is I use Gifted Inaru, and the reason I'm taking it is to burn off that healing absorb that happens after you Death Pact. So here you can see the Gifted Inaru has completely eaten away my healing absorb, but it hasn't, for the Unholy DK. He still has his healing absorb. This gives me options that the enemy DK doesn't have. You see, I could continue just to try to kill this low health enemy DK, but I could take all this runic power I have and Death Strike this warrior several times in order to heal myself. And I have that option because I've used Gifted Inaru to burn off the healing absorb. The enemy DK doesn't have that option. They could Death Strike, but it's not going to heal them. So what I do end up doing here, though, is I stun the warrior since his trinket's on cooldown, and I use that to help kill this enemy DK. Okay, and right there, this talent, Death Charge, which comes with Rider of the Apocalypse, is the reason why Rider will be default for PvP if nothing changes right now. Death Charge is going to allow you to get away from some unwinnable fights that you would not have been able to get away from before. In BGs, it's going to be actually really good for rotating bases. So if you look back at that arena skirmish, I topped damage in that skirmish, and the Unholy DK that was in that skirmish is the same Unholy DK that's in this BFG that did 9 killing blows and did 239 million damage, far more than anybody else in the match. So Unholy DK right now is really strong in BGs because they're using Super Strain and the diseases are doing a lot of AoE damage. But that doesn't necessarily translate to top damage in a small fight like 2v2 arena. Now back to that Deepal Ravine from earlier where I literally got 8v1'd because my team was dead. I mentioned it in the previous video. I think it was a huge mistake doing this in a 10v10 random BG format because you have pre-mades versus maybe pugs, but maybe that's not even the case. I feel like we had people in green gear coming in, not even getting the conquest gear, no enchants, no anything. I don't even know if they tested anything with their spec. Did they just log in and queue for these BGs? Because the damage that some of these people was doing is absolutely horrible. Now it's hard for melee to do damage in a match like this, but we had ranged on our team, and some of this range was only doing like 50 million damage. I mean, that's a number that you can produce on Dragonflight right now. Like Hunter, Affliction Warlock, you know, Mage, these classes are doing hundreds of millions of damage in BGs. Not like 50 million or 60 million. So I feel like we got some really like people that didn't care on my teams, and it was just not fun for me. And this is why I don't do random BGs. I don't do epic BGs. I only queue blitzes. If I can cap conquest only doing blitzes, I will not set foot into a random BG or a random epic BG because most of the time it is a total waste of time because many of the matches turn out to be stomps like this one. They're not fun. They're not fun when your team is stomping the other team. They're not fun when your team is getting stomped. Now Blitz is great because that allows you to go in. You don't have undergeared people because at least they're scaled up to a reasonable level. Eventually MMR should settle out where you have learners playing against other learners, you know, so the knowledge gap is gone. But how do you fix this for random BGs? You have huge disparities in random BGs. You know, you have disparities in skill, you have disparities in knowledge, and this goes with talent builds. I mean, I imagine a lot of newer players are coming in with absolutely horrible builds. You know, builds where they're making talent choices that contradict each other. You know, so you have that gap, and you have gear on top of that. All right, so you have all these things, and it makes for this absolutely gigantic gap in the effectiveness of the players. And if you're consistently getting put on the bad side of that, you're not going to want to play anymore. And you'll get bored if you're consistently placed on the good side of that. Except for the people that actually like to queue up random BGs and stomp pugs for some reason. I don't understand the mentality of these people, you know, but whatever. Now, how do you fix that for random BGs? Well, I think you have to go cross-faction and be more aggressive with how you match pre-mades versus pre-mades. And it almost feels like you need to have a hidden MMR system in place because these people that are coming in, like new players, people who are learning, they're constantly being put up against geared, knowledgeable pre-mage and just getting stomped consistently over and over and over again. Why would they want to continue to play? Now, Blitz is actually the best format for those people because if they are in there and they settle down into low MMR, in theory, they should be playing other people in the same boat, like other people that are learning the game. I would highly suggest that when you have new players coming in or people who are learners, that you, Blizzard, actually try to get them to do Blitz. Blitz is going to be a much better experience for them than random BGs or random epic BGs, which seems backwards, right? It seems backwards, and it is backwards. Now, I know it's a hard problem to fix, but hopefully you are aware of this problem. Hopefully you take a look at what happened in the on the test server for this DHR event with the Blues. Take a look at how many stomps there were compared to competitive matches. You need to be aware of this. You need to try to think of some way of fixing this. Again, I know it's not easy to fix. Cross-faction would probably be a big thing. Being more aggressive, matching pre-mates to pre-mates would be a big thing. I mean, maybe you need to think about doing some of these things that you do for Blitz for random BGs. Like a minimum item level scaling, so you don't have people in green gear from the previous season in these BGs. Maybe even some type of really soft MMR system just to try to help the new players out a little bit. Okay, that's it for that rant. Take care, everybody. I'll see you next time. Hold on.
Nope.
I have to do this to reload to get into this
I see a crystal down in the
so I can
mines.
see.